If you're someone who uses the need boost quick chat in game for any reason other than indicating where you're going on a kickoff, then this video is going to be a must watch for you. But Griff, I hear you say, how else am I supposed to tell my teammates that I'm out or low on boost? Okay then, fair enough, but let me answer your question with another question. How much do you need? Recognize this shot? It's impressive to say the least, but you know what truly impresses me the most about it? 56 boost. Arguably the most iconic shot in Rocket League history was done with only 56 boost. But Justin's a professional and doesn't need 100 boost to make big plays. I'm useless without a full tank of boost. Well, to paraphrase Tony Stark if I may, if you're nothing without the boost, then you don't deserve to have it. Obviously, the more boost you have, the more you can do, both in the air and on the ground. I get it. Rocket League is a game of advantages and how to capitalize on those advantages. Boost is easily one of the biggest advantages one can have in any given situation due to its impact on the overall pace of play, as well as the bevy of options it provides players both offensively and defensively. All of that said, I believe there haven't been enough efforts on educating the majority of the player base in regards to how much you should be using your boost and how much you actually need to be effective. So break out those number 2 pencils and take some notes because we fitting to learn you a thing or two. Now then, because I'm such a considerate guy who tries his best to respect your time as my viewer, I'm going to get straight to the point. That's right, we're going to discuss speed and boost values. Huh? Okay, before you click off this video, I challenge you to hear me out first. I've come up with a high level yet simple to understand concept regarding boost usage that, by watching this introduction, is not only going to make more sense, but completely change the way you look at boost in Rocket League. In order to make the most of your boost in Rocket League, you first need to be aware of how much boost you need or don't need to perform certain actions. For instance, if you were to start boosting from a dead stop, it would take you approximately 53 boosts to reach supersonic speed. Without boost, you would need upwards of 2 front flips, providing that you were already traveling your maximum driving speed to also reach supersonic. So can this be done faster? You bet your ass it can. Let's learn how to do it. If you're following along, feel free to pause at any point before moving on to the next step if we reach a mechanic that is new or difficult for you to do. Let's boot up free play, and before we start anything, we want to go into the pause menu and disable unlimited boost. While the first few drills won't involve any boost at all, it's good to go ahead and turn it off now so that we don't have to do it later. If you're looking for a little added challenge, you can even go into the controller bindings and disable your boost binding altogether, totally up to you. First thing we're going to do is learn the wave dash. This is the basis for a lot of these low boost momentum techniques, so if you already know it, great, but if you don't, here's a crash course. A wave dash involves initiating your car's flip or dodge against a surface so as to land its wheels against that surface so that the dodge is interrupted, if you will, by said surface. Like we discussed in the power shot video, when you initiate a dodge in the direction of your left stick, the car is propelled in that same direction. So if you hold up, you'll dodge forward, left, you'll dodge left, and so on and so on. If we observe the car in a front flip dodge, it flips forward end over end. Now, if we wait to use that dodge until the car is closer to the ground so that the front end can't freely rotate all the way around, we are stopped by the ground but still gain the speed boost we get from the dodge. What makes this technique so valuable is that you can literally do it in any direction. What helps to maintain this momentum is relative to the direction you're traveling, so if you wave dash forward, you want to be holding accelerate, backwards, holding reverse. With the side dashes, however, you want to be sure that you're holding power slide when you land. Since we don't have side-to-side propulsion other than dodges, we need to use power slide to maintain our momentum in these directions with as little resistance as possible. Once you've gotten that down, it's time to apply it to transitions on and off the wall. Off the wall is a little bit easier than on, since coming off the wall provides more momentum than onto it. Either way, the same thing we practiced on the ground transfers to this technique quite simply. For the wall to ground, all we have to do is jump off the wall, rotate our car, tilt our nose up, and dodge forward just as our back tires touch the ground. Easy enough. For the ground to the wall, it's the same, only in reverse somewhat. We jump, rotate with air roll, and land on the wall, back wheels first, and then front flip. A quick 2-piece of these from ground to wall and then wall back to the ground, if done correctly, can easily get you up to supersonic without any boost, which is the perfect way to transition from offense back to defense after a big push or play in which you burn most or all of your boost in your attempt. While we're on the topic of the wall, let's discuss wall dashes and how to use them. This is easily one of the hardest mechanics in this video, so I'm going to share with you a couple of tips for helping you pull this off a little bit easier. To begin, let's go to the start menu and turn the game speed down to 50%. If you have Bacchus mod, you can put this down even lower, but honestly, half speed should suffice for most people. Now, there are a couple different methods to this technique, but I find the version I'm about to show you to be the most efficient since learning something like the chain dash, while neat, isn't really practical. Note that I'm using the left wall for this demonstration, so any of the left stick direction I use for this wall will simply need to be mirrored for the right. To wall dash, we need to double jump as fast as possible, approximately 2 jumps per half a second, or faster if you can. Since we're going to be landing on a vertical surface, we have to compensate for our dodge with our stick direction based on which side of the wall the car is on. For the left wall, we first want to flick our stick towards the right, then immediately flick it up and to the left, around the 10 to 1030 position on the stick. Where our jumps come in is in between that transition from the right to the left on our stick. Naturally, if you're fast enough, you can chain these together, but like we discussed for the ground, you only need upwards of 2 dashes to reach supersonic, so in the case of the wall dash, you may only need 1 or 2 of these to get up to speed. If you're struggling to get these down, then I recommend trying them out in the corners first where the walls transition in the curve. Obviously, you still need to have good timing to pull this off, but this change in surface direction does offer some extra benefit when starting out with this mechanic. Another nifty wall to ground transition is the curve dash. Now, this one isn't super technical by any means, but the timing is what makes it so tricky to learn, especially due to the hard visual transition we experience when going from the wall to the ground, so we need to find a good point of reference we can use to help us learn what to do when. I found that using the line from the ground's quarter pipe where it meets the grass is the simplest to use. Just as your front wheels cross that line between the 2 surfaces is when you want to jump. When you do, your front tires should pop up slightly, keeping your rear tires on the ground and allow you to push forward on your stick to perform a wave dash. Next, let's work in some speed flips. We can get to supersonic without boost using a combination of 1 wave dash and 1 speed flip. Now, there is an easier way, which I'll cover first, and then there is a much harder way, which is the Zap Dash. Now, the easy way has you doing the wave dash first and then going into a speed flip. It's not as quick to supersonic as the Zap Dash, but if you're struggling with that mechanic or are in a recovery situation where you're landing into a wave dash first, then this makes for an excellent mechanic to learn. Now, in order for this combo to reach supersonic, you need to be aware of how much ground you first need to cover in order to reach a speed for this to work. Thankfully, we have landmarks on the map that we can use to give us some visual aid for our timing. Starting at the goal line, we want to drive forward until we reach the first boost pad located center of the box right in front of the goal. Once we do, we want to give a quick jump, keeping the car as low as possible, do our wave dash, and then quickly perform a speed flip. If you aren't certain of how to do a speed flip, then please go back and watch my tutorial on that mechanic and then come back to give this a try. The beauty of this technique is that you don't need to have the best speed flip in the world, just one good enough to help you get up to speed. If you're comfortable with that and have a consistent speed flip, then it's time to learn the Zap Dash. The Zap Dash is just the opposite of the wave dash and the speed flip, but what makes it so difficult is twofold: the landing and the timing. In order for the Zap Dash to work, you have to land with your front wheels first instead of the back like we've been doing with the traditional wave dash. The reason this works is because as your front wheels touch, the back wheels remain suspended before impact, but just before that impact, our car gains its ability to dodge. So if we're fast enough, our front wheels will pop up and push down the back wheels into that traditional wave dash position. From here, all we have to do now is our normal wave dash, and just like that, you've done a Zap Dash. One vital piece of this mechanic is ensuring that you're holding down accelerate the whole time. Reason being is that when we hold accelerate, the car begins to grip whatever surface it lands on, so when we land, pop up the front of our car, accelerate will force the back wheels to stick to the ground instead of popping up into the air. Now let's talk about going backwards. Since getting our car turned all the way around and heading in the other direction can take a hot second, I implore you to learn the half flip if you don't already know it. If you do, perfect. If you don't, here's how to do it. Quick note, I'm aware that there are multiple ways of how to do this, but I found what I'm about to show you to be the simplest and most consistent way that worked for me, so there's that. To perform a half flip, we want to do a back flip. Now, halfway through that back flip, as the wheels are pointing up towards the ceiling, we want to quickly shift our left stick straight up to cancel the back flip. From here, it's as simple as holding down one of your directional air roll buttons, either left or right, until the wheels are facing towards the ground again. Not much to it, just takes practice to get the timing down. Next, we can combine what we learned with the wave dash into the speed flip combo with half flips. Same as before, we're going to be using the goal line as our guide, only this time we're going to be driving in reverse from the goal line to around the top of the box or where the second boost pad is. From here, we want to do our half flip, and as soon as we land, quickly perform a speed flip. If done correctly, you will reach supersonic just over halfway through the speed flip. We can also start with a reverse wave dash into a half flip, which can also get us to supersonic. Okay, so this covers the majority of all of the boostless speed gaining techniques, so let's jump into the real meat of this video with a concept I like to call the boost budget. Like I mentioned at the top of the video, it takes roughly 50 to 55 boosts to reach supersonic strictly from boosting. Thankfully, with all these techniques, you now know how to reach supersonic without boost, but what could you do if you had some? Well, that all depends on how much you have. The concept of the boost budget is no different than any other typical budget, but instead of money, we're replacing monetary value with boost value. And just like a typical budget, you can't spend more than you have and therefore are limited in what techniques or mechanics you can perform based on how much boost you can expend. So if you have the maximum amount of boost, it's safe to assume that any and all mechanics are available to you. But since we don't always have 100 boost to spend, let's learn what we can do with what we have. Since we've started this tutorial without boost, let's work our way up from there and discuss all the things we can or should be able to do with a single boost pad. With only 12 boost, you can reach supersonic with a speed flip while boosting. Now, you need to be aware that when you boost during this process is crucial. Otherwise, you'll just burn through it without getting to max speed. From a dead stop, if you were to start driving and boosting at the same time, you would need at least 33 boost with a speed flip to reach supersonic. If you only have 12, then there are two ways you'll want to learn how to do this. Going back to the goal line for reference, we want to drive forward until we get between the first boost pad and the second one and then start boosting. From there, you should have enough speed built up to reach supersonic just after you speed flip. For my fellow car nerds, since we don't always have this sort of visual reference to know whether or not we've driven far enough before we start boosting, you can use audio cues to help you out here. If you listen just as the engine revs between first and second gear, this is about the same time as your car would be reaching its maximum driving speed, so there's that. Next, let's suppose you don't have any boost, but you're on your way to driving over a small pad. Same thing applies here. Only this time you're going to boost and speed flip at the same time. Since you won't already have the boost in your tank, you simply need to make sure that you are as close to maximum driving speed as possible, drive over or speed flip over the boost, engage your boost, and you're all set. Now, we've spent enough time on the ground, but what about the air? Can't do much with 12 boost, can you? Like hell you can't. If you're on defense and have been denied the corner boost or can't leave the box due to the threat of being scored on, then this little guy right here is about to become your best friend. Even with the best time double jump, you can't quite reach the crossbar, but with a single boost pad, you'll be able to reach the top and then some. To get the most out of this, I suggest this nice little backboard drill. With an empty tank of boost, pick up a single pad in front of the goal, double jump or fast aerial, and land on the backboard above the crossbar. If you're struggling to get down a clean fast aerial and haven't learned them yet, then you're in luck, because I've commissioned another Bacchus mod plugin, much like the speed flip plugin, that tells you whether or not you've held down your first jump long enough, if you've pressed your second jump at the right time, and if you've pulled your car back in between those jumps as much as possible to reach the maximum vertical pitch. Link for this plugin will be in the description. Which brings me to my next drill, reaching the ceiling. Without copying the work that Scholar did in his video on fast aerials, link in the description, I simply ask that you watch it, but if you don't, here's a brief summary. The main concept of his video is learning the timing necessary to perform a fast aerial. Now, this is significant because without knowing this technique and how to properly execute it, it changes how much boost you need to be able to reach the ceiling. Ultimately, it's been proven that the minimum amount of boost one can possibly reach the ceiling with is 38 boost. Now, just because we've been training how to do things with the least amount of boost possible, this is going to be my only exception to the budget. Reason being, as Scholar explains, reaching the ceiling with 38 boost, while obviously not impossible, is unrealistically difficult. It's not even necessary at the highest level of play. So for this reason, we're going to pad the budget a little bit and work within 41 to 45 boost. Same as his video, we want to start with the standard 33 spawning boost and pick up one additional pad. From here, we simply want to perform our fast aerial, starting our boost just after our second jump and sending it to the ceiling. The beauty with this drill is how quickly you can get in multiple reps in a short amount of time. As soon as you hit the ceiling, simply reset yourself, which refills your boost to the default 33, pick up another pad, and try again. If you want to expand upon this drill, I have a fun routine that I've created that incorporates a few other mechanics into this one, which I call the cross map drill. We start with the same 33 boost, pick up a single pad, drive towards the opposite goal for a short bit, fast aerial to the ceiling, but this time we want to land with all four wheels on the ceiling. When you do this, we want to ensure that you're lining up as straight as possible with the opposite goal. This way we can maintain our forward momentum as much as possible for the next step. After you've landed on the ceiling, be sure you're holding down accelerate so that we gain that wheel grip as well as a seamless continuation of momentum. Note, if you're landing on off angles, then you'll want to hold power slide so that the wheels don't grip and halt your momentum. From there, as the car starts to fall off the ceiling, perform a front flip towards the opposite goal, and our objective is to try to land on that goal's backboard. While we're on the topic of the ceiling, let's segue into getting off the ceiling or out of the air and back to the ground as efficiently and quickly as possible. Naturally, the quickest way to do this would be to use boost, but in plenty of cases you might not have any boost or a limited amount. So Let's cover both scenarios and how to get the most out of each. First, let's look at zero boost. If you're burning all of your boost to get to a ball near the ceiling, then having practiced that cross map drill is really going to come in handy here. This is a little sneak peek of a future video topic, but regardless, I want to cover the boost and momentum portion of it here before we get into that one. Turning your car over so that the wheels land on the ceiling is a habit you should start forming as soon as possible. Not just in situations where you're trying to follow up on the ball. In cases where you miss the ball, get beat on a challenge, or are making a touch to progress the play, then you'll want to start developing the reflexes you need to recover back into position. So let's say you've made your attempt on the ball and have landed your wheels on the ceiling. From here, simply jump without giving any directional input. This way, your momentum is aimed straight at the ground and decreases the time to reach a faster falling speed versus waiting for the game's gravitational force to reach its maximum effect. If you happen to have some boost in the tank, however, then it is encouraged to use some in order to add to your falling speed. Since the goal is to get back down from where you landed, jumping straight down, pitching your nose towards the ground, and giving a little boost to assist the falling speed is your best bet. Since getting back to a full tank of boost is the most ideal, when it's possible, I highly recommend expending most, if not all, of your remaining boost in order to grab a full boost pad. Since you're now in a situation where you're fighting against time to get back into the play, then blow the rest of your budget. Sometimes you gotta spend boost to make boost. Obviously, if this happens out in open space, then getting back to the ground should be your main point of focus, but if you've reached the ceiling near a wall, then you should shift your focus to that nearest wall. From here, you can use gravity to drive down the wall to help get you back to speed a little faster, and use a combination of curve dashes, wave dashes, or wall dashes to help get back into the play. Understanding the minimum amount of boost required to perform these mechanics is incredibly valuable and shouldn't be shrugged off. The fact is, you can do a lot more with limited boost than you think is possible. Plenty of situations in games tend to go uncapitalized due to this notion that your boost, or lack thereof, isn't sufficient for a successful outcome. If next time you find yourself on defense or out of position, I hope you'll start employing some more of these techniques into your gameplay. I strongly encourage a healthy amount of time spent training these both early into your typical routine, as well as any moment between other drills you might be working on, so that you can really bake this into something that becomes more of a reflex and less of a mechanic that you consciously have to decide to perform. Even the time after a goal is scored in a game is a couple of seconds of free time, so don't let it go to waste. I truly hope that any and all of this information helps you become a much more efficient and confident player with little to no boost. So until next time, get out there and stop telling me you don't have any boost. Quite frankly, I made this video so that you wouldn't have an excuse anymore. Next time your teammate hits you with a quick chat, please send him this video, because if you give up a goal because you only had 12 boost, well, then that wasn't the boost's fault, it's because you're